Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having a great day. Guys, we're going to switch it up from doing DSP content and we are going to talk about the games I am most excited about in the first half of 2025. Unlike our boy DSP, I do enjoy playing video games and I really like a lot of what I am seeing that is coming out in the first half. We have a lot of really unique and interesting looking titles, and I gotta be honest, I'm really surprised at how stacked 2025 is looking for new releases. So let's go ahead and kick it off with our first title, and that of course is going to be Monster Hunter Wilds. Now, Monster Hunter Wilds is releasing next week, so Friday the 28th, and I am extremely excited. Monster Hunter has been a franchise that I've played since Monster Hunter Freedom Unite back in 2008, and essentially the game is a big RPG where you go around, you hunt monsters, and you collect the parts from the monsters that you kill, and you use them to craft new armor sets, new weapons, and you basically continue that loop, and it's really great. Like, it sounds very simple, but it is so addicting and so much fun. The combat is very deep and very dense for what it is. Because it's made by Capcom, it has a lot of really complex mechanics as far as the combat, and there's a lot of hidden depth. What I mean by that specifically is that the weapons you choose, which there are a big variety of them, I want to say there's about 14 or so, you have a lot of different options at your disposal for how you want to fight each monster. And each monster also has its own animations, it has its own patterns that you need to be mindful of, and Wilds is also introducing the ability to use your environment as a weapon, which is really neat. Like, I've never seen them do that with a Monster Hunter to this extent. I'm talking about like being able to drop rocks or being able to drop big like traps onto the monsters. It's very cool. I'm very excited to see what they're able to do. I was able to play the beta test, and I can say off the bat that it is probably the best feeling Monster Hunter I've played to date. This is definitely one you're not going to want to sleep on. Monster Hunter has become Capcom's best-selling game, specifically Monster Hunter World, and this is supposed to follow in World's footsteps, so definitely keep this one on your radar. I think it's going to be phenomenal. The next release is coming out on March 27th, and that is going to be Berserker: The First Kazan. Now, this is a really interesting game because it's something that kind of came out of nowhere as far as on my radar. I really was not expecting anything from this game, but I played the demo for it and was really impressed by how, not deep I want to say, but I guess how much is going on in this game. It is a very simple looking Souls-like, but it seems like it has a lot of depth that we may not know a lot about yet. Plus, I'm very interested in story-wise where it's going and what it's doing. Apparently, it's part of the DNF universe, which, if you're not familiar, I believe it's Dungeon Fighters Online. I didn't know anything about the franchise, to be honest, but this game has really cool and visceral combat, and I think it's looking to be a very interesting anime-esque Souls game. I'm very curious to see where this one goes. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because I don't really know a whole lot about it, but from the demo I played, I think it's going to be worth giving a look. The next game on our list is the sequel to one of, if not my favorite game of all time, and that is going to be Doom: The Dark Ages. Doom: The Dark Ages is going to continue in Doom Eternal's footsteps, but it is looking to bring a much more grounded approach to Doom's combat. It's going to be less platform heavy and more tank-like, and I'm very curious to see how this ends up being. I am a huge Doom fan. I would say that Doom 2016 and Eternal are two of my favorite games of all time. Doom Eternal is my second favorite game of all time, just after Cyberpunk 2077, and not only is the gameplay and the movement just incredible feeling, but it's also super weighty and heavy, and you can feel every single impact, every crunch of a demon, every bass line, every riff of a guitar. It's so visceral, and it's one of the best experiences. It's the closest thing I can liken to being a roller coaster ride. You should definitely keep this game on your radar, and if you haven't, I highly recommend going back and playing Doom 2016 and Eternal. Those games are just two of the best boomer shooters of all time, without question. Just incredibly well made games, amazing soundtracks, I can't say enough good things about him. Just after Doom Dark Ages, we have Dune Awakening 5 days later on May 20th. Now, I'm very curious to see how this ends up. More so than any other game on this list, this is the biggest unknown to me, specifically because Dune is a franchise in which I have little experience, and on top of that, it's also an MMO, so I'm very curious to know how it's going to function, what the mechanics are going to feel like. Is it going to be heavy? Is it going to be light? Is it going to be very rich in content? Is it going to be something that's fun for a few hours, but then all of a sudden the grind kind of halts it to a stop and makes you want to not continue? I'm just really wondering how it's going to function as a whole, especially too within the Dune universe. I've seen the Dune movies, but that's kind of the long and short of my knowledge of Dune. That being said, I am very interested to know how they're going to capture the scale of the sandworms and the scale of the universe at large. I'm very optimistic, and I think it seems like something that I'm going to really enjoy playing, and hopefully it runs well on Steam Deck too. The next game on our list is a personal favorite of mine. I love the Onimusha series. I started watching the anime about a year ago, was absolutely blown away by how good it was. I went after that and played Onimusha Warlords, absolutely fell in love with that, and now we are getting a remaster of Onimusha 2, which I have never played, but I'm very excited to see how Capcom managed to take that formula from that first Onimusha game and just expand on it. I've heard that the series only got better after the first, and if you're not familiar with Onimusha, essentially it is the combat of Devil May Cry mixed with the environment and feeling of Resident Evil, but set in a feudal Japan. So it's very interesting as far as the concept goes. I think it's one of Capcom's more hidden gems, if you will, and I think it's going to be a really, really neat look at what we can expect from the new Onimusha game, which I'm incredibly excited for. This is one I would definitely have on your radar, no doubt. Once again, that's coming out on May 23rd. Now, the second to last entry on this list is going to be, of course, Elden Ring Night Reign. Elden Ring is an incredible game. I really can't say enough good things about it. I've spent dozens and dozens and dozens of hours playing it, and it is definitely one of the best Souls games I have ever played, bar none. To me, it really marries what is best about Dark Souls from the environment and the storytelling and the combat, but also adds a lot of high fantasy elements that I think George R.R. Martin brought to the table, the famous Game of Thrones writer. So it really does a lot of unique things. Now, Night Reign is not going to be quite the same. It's going to be, I believe, a roguelike Monster Hunter-esque Souls game, but I'm curious enough and I have enough faith in FromSoft to give it a shot. Even if it can't reach the high heights of Elden Ring, I still think that it's worth giving a shot. Plus, it comes in at $40, so knowing that it's not even going to be a full-priced release definitely sweetens the deal. And if for nothing else, it gives you an excuse to go back to Elden Ring in that universe. It's just so interesting and unique. I think it's going to be a really great time, even if you don't play it with other people. The very last game I have on this list is kind of an unknown. I've never actually seen this game until recently, and it looks really, really cool. It looks very similar to Final Fantasy 15 almost, and that is going to be Lost Soul Aside. This comes out the same day as Elden Ring Night Reign, so it could be a little bit tight on trying to choose between this and that, but this looks very unique. It kind of has a spectacle fighter, Devil May Cry meets Final Fantasy look to it. I don't really know a whole lot about it. I saw it in the recent State of Play video that Sony put out, and I was just blown away by how unique it looked. Plus, having a giant monster in the first few seconds of your trailer is always a good way to pull me in. I think this has a lot of potential, and if nothing else, I think it's worth at least experiencing to see what they managed to do with it. It seems like Sony is kind of using a lot of games like Stellar Blade to push spectacle fighters back into the mainstream, and I'm here for it. I absolutely adore spectacle fighters. Ninja Gaiden 4 is one that's slated out this year, which is very high on my list. The only reason I didn't include it is because it is not in the first half of 2025. I don't think I know the full release date yet for it, but I know it's coming in the later half. So by about June 1st, I will probably do an updated list for what I'm looking forward to in the later half of 2025. If you've made it to the end of the video, I really appreciate you sticking around and watching. If you normally watch my content and you know I make videos on DSP, I can definitely understand why you'd be kind of surprised by this, but I just figured it would be a good chance to talk about games that I am excited about in 2025, at least in the first half. DSP spends spends a lot of time complaining about games, so why not give a little bit of love to actually playing them? I won't waste much more of your time, but please let me know what you think of this video. I would love to kind of switch up my content from time to time and do things that are more different and engaging depending on what you guys want to see. So let me know, and as always guys, stay safe and have a great day.